Generation 2 in the Pokemon world debuted the Dark and Steel typing, the latter of which became the best defensive type in all of Pokemon, resisting a whopping 10 of the current 18 battle types, while also being immune to an 11th type being Poison. Rock types, Ice types, and Fairy types are forced to recognize just how great the Steel type is, and I look to show off Steel types in a mighty way as I look to beat Pokemon Violet using only Steel types in what is my favorite number, my 8th Monotype run for fun. Hi there, this is JKS Plays, welcoming you to another journey through the Paldea region. Even though this is not a hardcore nuzlocke, I will look to try to make this as fun and challenging for me, as well as interesting and enjoyable for you. Here are all the ground rules I've set in place that will be explained in full down in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's make this run ironclad. I begin this latest journey enrolling in Uva Academy as the male avatar. As everyone knows, none of the Paldean starters gain Steel as a secondary typing. For an added challenge though, I chose Quaxley. That way Nemona gets the fire starter Fuecoco, which will make the later battles challenging when Nemona has a fully evolved Skeledirge. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a static spawn, full odds shiny Palmy. Unfortunately, I can't use this Palmy in this run. I did feature shiny Palmots in my Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge quest, however. After catching this shiny Palmy in a Pokeball, it was off to the city of Mezagoza to unlock the 3 major side quests of Victory Road, Path of Legends, and Starfall Street. After getting the Tera Orb from Nemona, it was time to get back to some serious business. And by virtue of catching that shiny Palmy, by my Monotype run for fun rules, I have to hunt for a shiny Steel type later on during this run. For now, however, it's time for me to hatch 5 eggs, all with Steel types, that are Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet Indigo Disc DLC exclusives. One of which is not a Steel type just yet, but it will be when it evolves. That's not the case with this first egg, hatching Skarmory. Egg number 2 is the Pokemon that I was hinting at, Drillbur. The third egg hatches this awesome Steel type from the Alola region. It's the Alolan region form of Sandshrew. The fourth egg hatches into another Alolan variant of Diglett. And the fifth and final egg is this Indigo Disc DLC exclusive Duraludon, which works so well in my Pokemon Scarlet Dragon-only run. And of course, I put it in my main Violet file to feed it a metal alloy so that Duraludon evolves into its Gen 9 evolution, Archaludon. And after all those eggs were hatched, I went all around the Paldea region, getting valuable TMs and items, while searching for more Steel-type Pokemon that are at or underneath the obedience level cap that starts at 20, like this Gimmighoul. Then after finally arriving at the city of Cortundo, where I will eventually challenge for my first gym badge in this run against Bug Gym Leader Katie, I ran into yet another non-Steel shiny Pokemon. It is Fluxling. That's just a perfect example of how busted the shiny charm is in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. After catching that shiny Fletchling in a quick ball, it was time for me to hunt for more Pokemon that I know that will help me now and in the long run, like this Scyther. Then right after catching that Scyther in a netball, I encountered one of my favorite Pokemon of all time right at the obedience level cap. This level 20 Riolu. After a hard struggle with this Riolu, I managed to make the capture in my favorite Pokeball of choice, the Luxury Ball. And I was very pleased to find out about these last 2 captures. Of course, I won't be terrestrializing Scyther at all during this run because of the flying typing, But as you can see, it has the technician ability, and even better, the adamant nature, considering Scyther's Steel-type evolution is a physical attacker. As far as this Riolu is concerned, I was even more pleased to find out it has the modest nature, considering it gets a lot of special attacks by TMs and by leveling up. And speaking of leveling up, that's exactly what I did with Scyther when I used Pokemon Home to put it briefly into Pokemon Legends Arceus, to give Scyther a metal coat to evolve Scyther into one of the best Pokemon of all time in Generation 2, Scizor. And as you probably know, Riolu is not a Steel type overnight. So I went ahead and went back to Mesagoza to pick up the Soothe Bell, had Riolu hold it while washing Riolu to get its friendship to max level. And once 3 hearts appeared over Riolu's head, it was time to level up Riolu once to evolve into Lucario. Still, there was one more Steel Pokemon I needed to catch before starting my run, and it's the part Fairy type Tinkatink. After catching this Tinkatink in a Dream Ball, the only Dream Ball I had at the time, this Tinkatink will definitely come in mighty handy against Bug Gym Leader Katie because of that Steel Fairy dual typing. It means Tinkatink quad resists Bug type attacks, and this Tinkatink came with the docile nature. As I stated a few moments ago, Tinkatink is the perfect lead to go up against Cortundo Bug Gym Leader Katie, considering Tinkatink quad resists bug types due to her Steel and Fairy dual typing. I also gave the now nicknamed Chevy the Rocky helmet to hold, considering all 3 of Katie's bugs have nothing but physical attacks. And every time Tinkatink gets struck by an attack, the opposing Pokemon will take damage. Katie's first 2 Pokemon, Nimble and Tarantula, were both disposed of by the combination of Tinkatink's Rock Tomb, which I taught after finding the TM, and Draining Kiss to heal Tinkatink almost to full HP before squaring off against her ace Pokemon, Bug Tera Teddiursa. 2 Rock Tombs from Tinkatink combined with Rocky Helmet damage from Fury Swipes took Teddiursa down to the red before the Johto Bear Cub struck with a Bug Terastallized Fury Cutter, which ended up being the demise of Teddiursa, scoring me my first gym badge of this Pokemon Violet Steel only run. Next to go to work for my sensational Steel types is Lincoln the Archuludon against Stony Cliff Titan Claw. A powerful opening Metal Claw struck for over half of Claw's health, activating its Anger Shell ability, which made it move fast on the second turn after wasting turn 1 by using Block, considering I was never going to sub out Archuludon in the first place. A second Metal Claw set up the second phase of this bout, where I get to team up with Arven and his Shelder. I started off the second part of the battle by lowering the special defense of Cloth by 2 stages with Metal Sound, which slightly powered up Shelder's Water Gun. I used Metal Claw again to activate Cloth's Anger Shell, which increases its attack stats and speed by a stage, but lowers both its defenses by a stage, putting its special defense to a -3. I terastallized Archuludon for the finishing blow with 1 more Metal Claw, which gives Archuludon, now nicknamed Lincoln, double the same type attack bonus for being a part Steel type and having the Steel Tera type. Effortlessly collecting my first 2 badges, the early dominance of the Steel types was not over yet, as I next challenged Artisan Town's Grass Gym Leader Brascius, where I had the perfect counter to his entire team by simply bringing out Dodge the Scizor. Taking full advantage of Scizor's Technician ability, which powers up moves that are at base 60 power and lower than base 60 power, like Pounce, the TM I taught to Scizor after defeating Katie, and Wing Attack, which made quick work of Brascius' first 2 Pokemon. I used Pounce again to lower the speed of Grass Tera Sudowoodo, forcing Brashus to have Sudowoodo use Trail Blaze to build its speed back up. But it ended up being a curse more than a blessing, considering Scizor was also holding the Rocky Helmet, leaving Sudowoodo knocking itself out and claiming me my second gym badge and increasing the obedience level cap to 30, which enabled for me to evolve Tinkatink into Tinkatuff. And while traveling up the Glaciato Mountain to get an Ice Stone, I evolved a Alolan Sandshrew into a Alolan Sandslash, which made it the only Pokemon necessary to take down the Open Sky Titan Bombardier. For the first turn, I had Sandslash use Snowscape to not only boost up its own defenses due to it being an Ice type, but to also activate Sandslash's Slush Rush ability, which doubles the speed of Ice-type Pokemon in the snow, leaving Bombardier wide open on the second turn to get struck by a powerful Icicle Crash to immediately set up Phase 2 of this battle. It was just a simple matter of lather, rinse, and repeat with Sandslash, as Bombardier wasted the first turn by using Torment on Arven's Knackley, before the foul creature gets absolutely wrecked by another lethal Icicle Crash. It felt really good to feature Alolan Sandslash, now nicknamed Chrysler, in taking down my second Titan. Now I was going after my first Team Star base, evolving Kia from Alolan Diglett to Alolan Dugtrio, before it was time for me to wipe the second squad off the map, leading off with the newly evolved Alolan Dugtrio to go up against the first Pokemon brought out by Giacomo and Poniard, who immediately got dropped by a Bulldoze. Now Giacomo calls upon the power of the second Starmobile, which lowers the attack of Dugtrio by 1 with Intimidate, before I swapped out Dugtrio in favor of Lucario, who immediately gets his special defense lowered by 2 with Metal Sound, before taking a resistant Snarl, which also lowered Lucario's special attack by a stage. A powerful Aura Sphere still struck for just about half of the large health bar of the Starmobile. I had Lucario built its special stats back up by a stage with Calm Mind after taking another resistant Snarl, then immediately terrestrialized Lucario into a Terra fighting type. The Starmobile opted to go for Metal Sound again, but missed, which proved to be fatal after this double stab Terra boosted Aura Sphere finished off the Starmobile, sending it to the junkyard where it belongs. Almost effortlessly, my Steel types have claimed for me the first 5 badges, and the early dominance only served to continue against the lurking Steel Titan Orthworm, a Pokemon with a high physical defense but a very low special defense, which made it a wise choice to once again have Cadillac take the lead and destroy the slug with not 1, not 2, but 3 Aura Spheres. This is my fastest and most efficient start in any of my Monotype runs for fun, but not all the matchups are going to look this easy for my Steel types, especially the next 2. I headed back up to the East Province Area 3 desert to get a noteworthy TM. Along the way, I got bumped into by my next Steel type family member, Varoom, which also is a part Poison type. After quickly catching the Varoom, I did the back jumping technique with Miraidon to get that TM for Body Press, which I taught Archuludon. Speaking of which, Archuludon played a massive role in getting my next member to my Steel type family. I searched all over Paldea for every single chest form Gimmicule I could find in order to collect 999 Gimmicule coins. And after defeating one more chest form Gimmicule atop the Glaciato Mountain, I headed to Levincia Town to level up the Gimmicule I had already caught one time via rare candy with 999 Gimmicule coins active to evolve Tesla into Goldango, one of the most broken Pokemon to have ever been conceived and the 1000th Pokemon of all time, which I was definitely going to put to good use against the supercharged streamer Iono in the Levincia Town Electric Gym. Defeating Iono's first 3 Pokemon was never going to be too much of an issue for my Steel types, even though Electric does resist Steel. I used Alolan Sandslash to finish off Iono's first Pokemon watch roll with a powerful Icicle Crash, then turned things over to another Alolan region variant in Kia the Dugtrio to defeat Iono's second Pokemon Bellibolt with 2 Bulldoze attacks. I subbed out Dugtrio and brought in Lucario to do combat against Luxio. After soaking up the Intimidate, Luxio got polished off in one decisive hit courtesy of Lucario's Aura Sphere, forcing Iono to summon in her ace, the levitating Electric Tera Mismagius, a ghost type that loves to use Confuse Ray to power up its Hex attack. That's why I briefly kept Lucario in before swapping out in favor of Goldengo, putting the good as gold ability to good use. But after Mismagius struck Goldengo with a Hex anyway, cutting off half of Goldengo's HP, I knew I needed to make another sub after Goldengo clapped back with a Hex attack of its own. I next subbed in Lincoln the Archludon to take the incoming Confuse Ray and Hex combination from Mismagius. I clicked on Body Press, but Lincoln hurt itself in its confusion, and since I didn't have a Person Berry, I had to make another substitution, this time bringing in Dodge the Scizor. Scizor confidently took the next Hex attack from Mismagius, who went back to its Confuse Ray tactics. But Scizor wasn't fooling around, breaking through confusion and pouncing on Mismagius for my third Gym Badge victory. After blowing by the early battles of this run with brute force, my sensational Steel types provided a little bit of finesse to defeat Iono for my 7th badge and increase the obedience level cap to 35. But with the next battle being the Team Star Fire base coming up, one of the more difficult battles for my Steel types, I knew I needed some backup, finding it in the form of catching Bronzor with the Heat-Proof ability, which cuts in half damage done by Fire-type attacks. Unfortunately, this Bronzor had a speed-lowering nature, so I found a Hasty Mint while traveling around Paldea to feed Bronzor, which I now nicknamed Subaru. I also evolved forward from Drillbur into one of the most popular and destructive forces from the Unova region, Excadrill. And while I was at it, I also evolved Subaru into Bronzong. While outside the Team Star Firebase hideout, I found the Rain Dance TM, which I immediately taught Bronzor as I stood face to face against the Shutter Squad leader Mela. Immediately on the first turn, I had Bronzong wash away Torkoal's drought with Rain Dance, making the incoming Flame Wheel look pathetic. On the second turn, I had Bronzong set up a Reflect to cut in half damage done by physical attacks before swapping Subaru out in favor of Cadillac the Lucario. Holding Mystic Water and with the rain still up, Torkoal immediately got one shot by Lucario's Water Pulse. I also made sure Bronzong was holding the Damp Rock, which increased the rain turn from 5 to 8 as the Shutter Starmobile was forced into action. It used Overheat on Lucario, partially lowering its own special attack by 2 stages, and after Lucario took a second Overheat, the second Water Pulse in retaliation left the Starmobile with literally 1 HP. Mela finally had some sense to switch its attack to Blazing Torque, which even burned Lucario, but it was all for naught as one final Water Pulse sealed the deal and claimed a massive victory for my Steel-type Pokemon, enduring one of the most difficult battles in this run so far. Now a proud owner of 8 badges in this run, I look to add to my Steel family once more before taking on the next challenge in finding a Magnemite. And after evolving it quickly to Magneton, I found a Thunderstone to have my Magnezone, one of the 3 Steel types I felt was needed to take down Water Gym Leader Kofu at Cascarafa Town. One of those Pokemon was Scizor, as his Technician-boosted Pounce immediately eradicated Kofu's first Pokemon, Veluza. I swapped out Scizor in favor of Magnezone to deal with Wugtrio. It hit a quad-effective Mud Slap, which lowered the accuracy of Magnezone, so I decided to use Magnet Rise to make Magnezone completely immune to ground-type attacks. After being confused by Water Pulse, Magnezone got the victory over Wugtrio with a powerful Thunderbolt. Wugtrio also took Sandstorm damage before being zapped out of here. For the final duel in this gym battle, I summoned in Link and the Archludon to square off against Kofu's ace, Water Tera Crabominable, who hits hard with a Terra Stab Crab Hammer and also has a move that's super effective against Steel types and Rock Smash, which didn't bother me a single bit, as I had Archludon charge up and Electro Shot. Its base 130 power electric special attack signature maneuver. Crabominable gets absolutely annihilated. I now own 4 gym badges and 9 badges overall, raising the Obedience threshold level cap in this run to 40. And now that the first half of this run is complete, time to start the second half by heading to the land of Kitakami. I chose this time at this point of the run to unlock the hidden treasure of Area Zero Part 1, the Teal Mask DLC, for a certain Pokemon that I know will help me along the way. For those of you who have not purchased the DLC, you are in for a treat. For those of you who have purchased the DLC, you already know that once you meet with Professor Jock in Kitakami, you are gifted a guaranteed Sinnoh egg, which will hatch one of 3 Sinnoh starter Pokemon. And on my second attempt, I was able to hatch the water starter Piplup. I loved watching Don's Piplup in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl anime, so this is a huge deal. But unlike Don, I will eventually be evolving my Piplup into its final stage evolution Empoleon when it gains the Steel typing. This Piplup comes with a neutral nature, which is perfect considering it has a great mix of physical and special attacks. Returning to Paldea in preparation for taking on the Team Star Poison base next, I picked up another valuable Pokemon right outside the hideout in this bug-type Pokemon, Pineco. And with the Obedience level cap still at 40, I was able to evolve this Pineco into Fortress, which gives it the secondary Steel typing. And I love the fact that this Pokemon is able to use all 3 major hazard moves of Stealth Rock, Toxic Spikes, and Spikes. I won't be using Toxic Spikes here as I go up against the Navi squad leader, Atticus. I've had problems with Atticus in previous runs, but I've also had an easy time with Atticus in runs before my recent runs. And in this case, it's leaning toward the latter, because I have a team full of Steel types which are immune to Atticus's type of choice being Poison, which made it the perfect time for me to begin with Fortress, setting up 3 layers of Spikes and Stealth Rocks before swapping out in favor of Lucario. This is the checkmate point of this Team Star fight. Atticus is now rendered helpless as his lead Pokemon Skuntank is out of usable attacks, considering I have wasted all 5 of its Sucker Punch power points by setting up all those hazards. And speaking of setting up, I had Lucario build up its attack stat to a +6 by using Swords Dance 3 times, and its speed to 4 stages by using Agility twice. And after Lucario used Agility for the second time, it was ball game. All I had to do from that point is click on Earthquake 4 times to wipe out every single member of Atticus's team, including the Navi Starmobile. This is the same strategy I employed with Lucario in my Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge Quest and Pokemon Scarlet Fighting Only run, making this the easiest of all the Team Star boss battles. Now an owner of 10 badges, I was able to make some timely evolutions, especially this one, evolving Piplup all the way to Empoleon. and then I nicknamed Empoleon Mercedes-Benz. And at level 38, I evolved Chevy into Tinkaton. And upon evolution, it learns its signature move, Gigaton Hammer. And on the 3rd evolution, I evolved Vroom, nicknamed Nissan, into Revavroom. Still, I felt the need for more flying-type coverage to be a check to one of the Steel type's weaknesses in fighting. Even though I already had a Skarmory, I went ahead and caught myself one of my favorite all-time birds from the Galar region, Rookidee. After catching Rookidee in a friend ball, it was off to Medali Town to go up against everyone's favorite everyday man Larry, a master of normal types. I reverted back to another familiar scenario. Just like my Scarlet Dragon only run, I decided to use Lincoln the Archludon to sweep the gym. Considering I did teach it Body Press, I also taught it the TM for Iron Defense, which increases its defense by 2 stages each time it's used. On top of that, I bred this Archludon as a Duraludon with the Light Metal ability, and when it evolves to Archludon, it gains the Stamina ability, which increases defense by 1 stage whenever the opposing Pokemon makes contact with the Pokemon that has that ability. And by the time Archludon was done dominating this gym, it was at a +6 in defense after taking a normal Terra resistant facade from Staraptor, who went down along with Larry's other 2 Pokemon to 3 Body Press attacks, raising my gym badge count up to 5, and the obedience level cap jumps up to 45. A strange thing happened on my way to leveling up Pokemon near the Team Star Fairy base. Strange in a good kind of way, as I evolved my Rookidee all the way to its final evolution at level 38, Corviknight. As you can see in the background, a certain shiny Pokemon was in the background, so I went ahead, confronted it, and caught it. This shiny Ice Cube. This is the 3rd non-Steel type that I found as a shiny during this run, which means I have to hunt for 3 shiny Steel types before challenging the Elite Four. I have many Steel options left where I can shiny hunt for them. But before I get to that, it's back to the business of badge collecting as I go up against the MIC of RIP, Ghost Gym Leader Rhyme in Montenevera Town. This is the only gym in the base game that is a double battle, and it's also the gimmick gym. Whenever a Pokemon on your team knocks out one of Rhyme's Pokemon, like Lucario did to Banette, you get an attack and special attack boost to both your Pokemon. However, if you terrestrialize a Pokemon on any of the turns, both your Pokemon get an Omni boost. Speaking of boost, I had Corviknight set up its attack and accuracy by 1 stage during the first turn with Hone Claws. Now Corviknight has 7 boosts after the Omni boost, powering up its Power Trip attack, which knocked out Rhyme's 3rd Pokemon, Houndstone. Lucario used Dark Pulse to get rid of Banette, and then on the 2nd turn, using Dark Pulse again to break Mimikyu's disguise, setting up Rhyme's final Pokemon, Ghost Tera Toxtricity, entering into the battle. Lucario then switched up its attacks to Flash Cannon, which is super effective against Mimikyu due to it being a Ghost Fairy type. And one more Power Trip from Corviknight polished off Toxtricity for an easy gym badge win. The next gym battle against Psychic Leader Tulip in Alphanata Town was about to get even easier thanks to Dodge the Scizor. Considering it has a type that is super effective against all 4 of Tulip's Pokemon, it made this bout completely academic. All of Tulip's Pokemon are faster than Scizor except for her first Pokemon, Farigiraf, but all 4 of them ended up getting dropped in a single hit by either X-Scissor or the priority Steel move Bullet Punch, which befell Gardevoir. Now the obedience level cap is at 55, as another Steel type makes its debut against the Quaking Earth Titan Iron Treads in Mercedes-Benz the Empoleon. A rain-boosted Surf one-shot the futuristic Donphan in Phase 1, For the second phase, I teamed up with Arven and its Scovillain. I started out by lowering the attack stat by 2 stages of Iron Treads with Charm, then immediately terrestrialize Empoleon to once again call upon Mother Nature with Rain Dance after taking a stomping tantrum. Scovillain lowered the Tread's speed by 2 stages of Scary Face, and then struck with Fire Fang that was nerfed by the rain. The next Surf attack nearly took out Iron Treads, and it also knocked out Arven's Scovillain in the process, considering Surf is a widespread move that hits all Pokemon. A priority Aqua Jet from Empoleon finally finished off Iron Treads for good. I have now defeated 4 Titans, and now I'm going after my 8th and final gym badge against Ice Gym Leader Grusha atop Graciano Mountain. Ice is one of the 3 types that Steel has the advantage against, and I decided to lead with a Alolan Doug trio against Grusha's first Pokemon, Frostmoth. After setting up a Sandstorm, Doug trio nearly got taken out by Frostmoth's Blizzard, before retaliating with a quad effective Rock Slide to take Frostmoth out. Before being defeated, Frostmoth did set up a Tailwind for Grusha's team to be faster on the next 3 turns, evidenced by Beartick's super effective Earthquake on Alolan Sandslash, who responded in kind by dropping Beartick in 1 hit with an Iron Head. I then subbed in Lincoln the Archaludon to square off against Grusha's 3rd Pokemon, Titan, who struck first with Ice Spinner, boosting Archaludon's defense by a stage with Stamina, before Titan went down in a 1-hit KO, compliments of Archaludon's Flash Cannon. For the final duel, I brought out Lexus the Magnezone to do combat against Grusha's final Pokemon, Ice Tera Altaria, a special attacking stud. And considering Magnezone resists all 4 of Altaria's moves, I decided not to terrestrialize Magnezone since I caught the Magnemite with a Tera Electric type. Grusha's animation revealed that Altaria was going to use Ice Beam, which is also resistant, but also froze Magnezone. Fortunately, I got the first turn thaw out, and Altaria was done for when Magnezone struck Altaria in its head with a super effective Flash Cannon. Total team chemistry was at its peak for my sensational Steel types, as I've now claimed all 8 Paldea region gym badges. And as a result of that, the obedience threshold level cap maxes out at level 100. But as per the rules of my Monotype runs for fun, I'm going to freeze it at level 75. And as an added bonus, I officially qualify to challenge the Pokemon League. And now for the next favorable matchup for my Steel types, against Team Star Rukba Squad leader Ortega, a master of Fairy types. Unfortunately for him, I had Revavroom in my party, a Pokemon that is a Steel and Poison type, which are both types that Fairy is weak against. So I think you know where this is headed. For this battle, I made sure that Revavroom was holding the Clear Amulet item which debuted in Generation 9, an item that prevents any of the Pokemon stats being lowered by an ability or an attack by the opposing Pokemon. Once Ortega's first 2 Pokemon went down in a flash, I had Revavroom set up its attack and speed 3 times by using Shift Gear. And once I was done building up Revavroom's stats, it was now at a +3 in attack and a +6 in speed before terrestrializing Revavroom into a Tera Poison type. From there, it was game over for Ortega, as Wigglytuff goes down to a +3 Poison Jab. And as Ortega threw a hissy fit before calling on the power of the Rukba Starmobile, it also went down to a +3 Gunk Shot, capping off without a doubt the most humiliating moment in Ortega's life and earning me my 16th badge. This fast pace by my Steel types just kept on going, as I next targeted the False Dragon Titan Dondozo, dropping some thunder on it with Magnezone, before finishing off the first phase of this bout with a critical hit discharge. For the second phase, I terrestrialized Magnezone into a Tera Electric type for some more watt power. The first thunder not only delivered massive damage to Dondozo, it also caused the paralysis, enabling for Magnezone to pick up a completely free victory with its next attack being Thunderbolts. And as Dondozo sunk into the abyss of Casseroya Lake, the real Dragon Titan Tatsugiri shows up to battle. For this phase, I swapped out Magnezone in favor of Lincoln the Archaludon. Unlike Dondozo, Tatsugiri has a special attacking set, with Icy Wind, which lowers opposing Pokemon's speed, Muddy Water, which has a small percentage of lowering opposing Pokemon's accuracy, and Dragon Pulse, which will only do neutral damage to Archaludon due to it being a Dragon and Steel type. After Arven's Gradient softened up the defense of Tatsugiri by a stage with Tail Whip, a second Dragon Claw scored yet another convincing victory for my sensational Steel types. And after getting my 17th badge, things are about to get a whole lot more interesting. With one badge left to collect before I challenge the Elite Four, I still needed to hunt for 3 shiny Steel types, and an opportunity struck for me at East Province Area 3 as a mass outbreak opened up for Cufant, a Pokemon that debuted in the Galar region. And after 3 hours of searching, I found my first shiny target. I wasted little time in weakening Cufant before catching my first Steel Shiny in a Fastball. Once this shiny Cufant evolves into Caparaja, it gives my Steel-clad family another solid defensive tank. This Cufant also came with an awesome ability, Sheer Force, which removes the additional effects of a move, but it increases that move's power. Then on the next day, another mass outbreak opened up for another Steel type that I wanted to add to the family in its shiny form. And this particular Steel type just might give me more keys to my Steel-clad family's success. That's right, it is Shiny Klefki, which debuted in the Kalos region, and also, like Tinkaton, has the secondary Fairy typing. For those of you who saw my Violet Fairy only run, you know exactly how valuable Klefki is, and how it soloed and defeated the Team Star Poison base. After catching this shiny Klefki in a Luxury Ball, which is my favorite Pokeball of choice, I was very pleased to know that this Klefki came with its best ability, Prankster, which gives priority to any of the Pokemon status moves. I then made the decision to go for a third shiny Steel type right after I claimed my 18th badge. Along the way, though, I headed back to Kitakami to find myself a Nosepass, which is a pure rock type. All you have to do to change it into a Steel type is feed it a Thunderstone. After getting the TM for the ground move High Horsepower for one of my Steel types, I evolved Nosepass with a Thunderstone into Probopass. And back at the East Province Area 3 Desert, I went to the hibernating spot where the lurking Steel Titan Orthworm once was. And after catching this Orthworm in a repeat ball, it came with all its stats at Fantastic and the Titan Mark. Then after another training mission, Shiny Cufant, nicknamed after Volkswagen, evolved into Caparaja. Getting badge number 18 was not going to be easy, as I stepped up to the plate and faced off against Team Star Cap Squad leader Airy, a master of one of the Steel type's weaknesses, being fighting. The first Pokemon I elected to start this battle with is Pontiac the Fortress, and the plan was pretty elementary. Set up a flurry of hazards on every odd turn, and then on every even turn, protect to gradually heal up Fortress's HP with leftovers. And by the time I was done setting up, Fortress was able to lay down all 3 layers of spikes, stealth rocks, and 2 layers of toxic spikes. The latter of the hazards will not affect Ares Lucario or the Cap Starmobile. I then swapped in Tesla the Goldengo to dodge Toxicroak's next Brick Break attack due to Ghost-type immunity before leveling Toxicroak with a quad-effective Side Shock. And knowing that Ares was going to bring out Lucario next, I decided to counter with Cadillac, my own Lucario, who beat Ares Lucario to the punch with an Aura Sphere for a one-hit KO. With my Lucario winning the mirror match, Ares thought she could get a quick knockout with her Passimian next. That's why I swapped out Lucario in favor of Tesla the Goldengo, as Passimian took entry hazard damage and was also badly poisoned by the toxic spikes. Then Goldengo let Passimian have it with a super effective Side Shock for another one-shot. Ares then summoned in Annihilate Fourth, and knowing that the Rage Monkey was about to charge up a Rage Fist, I brought out the Rocky Helmet holding Oldsmobile the Skarmory to take the blow. And on this one turn, Annihilate lost half of its HP due to the hazard damage, the Toxic Spike's poison, and the Rocky Helmet, then further lowered its HP by hitting Skarmory with a close combat before it got knocked out by Skarmory's Drill Pack, which I might add got the 1 in 16th chance of the hit being critical, as Ares brought out the real threat on her team, the Cap Starmobile. As always, the Cap Starmobile sets up its attack and speed with shift gear before being nailed by Skarmory's next Drill Pack. After this combat torque, Skarmory was left fully paralyzed, forcing me to make another substitution back into Goldengo. Seeing that Goldengo is a threat, Ares further enhanced the Starmobile's attack and speed with 2 consecutive shift gears before Goldengo struck with Dazzling Gleam to take the Starmobile into the red. Then the Cap Starmobile struck with the super effective ground move High Horsepower, but the attack got cut in half due to Goldengo holding a Shucka Berry. If it weren't for that berry, that would have been my first loss of this run, but no dice, as Tesla's final Dazzling Gleam soundly defeats Ares, and now I have all 18 badges thanks to my sensational Steel-type Pokémon. After a day of rest, another mass outbreak opportunity opened up for me just outside the Team Star Fighting Base hideout in the Bamboo Forest of North Province Area 2 for my final Steel-type family member. One of the amazing Shinies of Generation 5 was now going to be a part of my team in the Dark-type Bisharp. Before finding this shiny Bisharp after a 1-hour search, I caught a regular Bisharp holding the Leader's Crest, which is very important to evolve Bisharp in Generation 9. And after catching the shinier version in a Great Ball, it turned out I didn't even need to make that hassle, because this shiny Bisharp was already holding a Leader's Crest. It does kind of stink that this shiny Bisharp has the Steel Tera type, but having the Defiant ability more than makes up for it. It also came with the speed boosting, attack lowering, timid nature. How do you evolve Bisharp in Generation 9? Well, you have to find 3 Bisharp in a pack with 4 Poniard and knock them out in succession. And once you complete that requirement, Bisharp evolves into its new evolution, King Gambit. And upon evolution, King Gambit learns its signature move, Kowtow Cleave, a base 85 power physical dark attack that never misses. It's finally time for the final home stretch. For only the second time in any of my Monotype runs for fun, I immediately decided to challenge the Pokemon League first after claiming all 18 badges. And just like my Violet Electric only run, the main reason why is because of the first Elite Four member, Rika. As you know, one of the Steel type's 3 main weaknesses is the ground type Pokemon, and that is the type Rika is a master of. Overall though, the Steel types do very well in the Paldea Elite Four. The second member, Poppy, also specializes in Steel types, and Steel resists the other two typings that the other two Elite Four members are masters of, being Flying and Dragon. I came into this battle with Rika with a game plan and a contingency plan, which is the fact that I purchased 3 air balloons, which I had 3 members of my chosen Steel type party to hold for this battle against Rika. One of which is not my lead, Lucario, which was only used as a decoy for Rika's first Pokemon, Whiscash. Beating out the super effective Earth Power, I immediately swapped in Chevy the Tinkaton. And this is where one part of my game plan was about to be executed. Once Earth Power was dodged due to the air balloon, I immediately locked Whiscash into that move by using Encore. For the next 2 turns, I had Tinkaton fiercely attack Whiscash with the very physical attack Play Rough. On the second one, it took Whiscash down to the red, and the Encore turns ended. So, I locked Whiscash into Earth Power again by using Encore a second time. And what would be a Violet Steel only run without showcasing Tinkaton's signature move, Gigaton Hammer? It's not effective at all considering Whiscash is also a water type, but Gigaton Hammer scored a crit anyway, and down went Whiscash. I did commit somewhat of a misplay by letting Tinkaton stay in to deal with Rika's second Pokemon, the part fire type Camerupt. Wanting to bait out a super effective fire move, I subbed out Tinkaton and brought in Mercedes-Benz the Empoleon to take the hit, but Rika had Yawn in her playbook, forcing Empoleon to grow drowsy, and as Camerupt went down to a quad-effective Hydro Pump, Empoleon was put to sleep. I needed to swap out because Empoleon was also holding an air balloon once Rika brought in Donphan, but I had the perfect counter anyway by bringing in Scizor. Trailblaze is now powered up to be a base 80 power move thanks to Scizor's Technician ability. 2 Trailblaze attacks put Donphan down, and they were necessary for Scizor to be faster than Rika's 4th Pokemon Dugtrio, and Trailblaze ended up being a one-shot. The final Pokemon for Rika is her ace, Ground Tera Clodsire, a Pokemon that loves to protect Stall, but it can't use Toxic on any of my Steel-clad Pokemon. So I started out by bringing Lucario in to be a decoy once again, as I subbed in Buick the Earthworm once Rika terrestrialized her precious Clodsire. Clodsire's only attacking moves in its moveset are Earthquake and Liquidation. Earthquake cannot even touch Earthworm because of its exclusive ability, Earth Eater. Clodsire loves to protect on every alternating turn, which gave me a golden opportunity to have Earthworm build up its defense twice up to 4 stages with Iron Defense before squashing Clodsire and finishing off this fight with a body press. My Steel types emphatically cleared one of our biggest hurdles in the endgame, and now it was time to deal with the second Elite Four member, Poppy, in a Steel type mirror match. For this Elite Four fight, I switched up my entire team against Poppy, 2 of which are sparkling additions, like this shiny Klefki, my chosen lead against Poppy's first Pokemon, Copperajah. Knowing that Poppy's Copperajah likes to set up Stealth Rocks on turn 1, on the first 2 turns I had Klefki lay down 2 layers of spikes before taking a super effective high horsepower. Klefki protected on the next turn to gain some HP back with leftovers, getting it back to green health, dodging the second high horsepower attempt. Then I swapped out Klefki and brought in for the first time in this entire run Ford the Excadrill, who got greeted by a critical hit heavy slam from Copperajah. After taking the hit, I made my most gutsy call ever by having Excadrill use a 30% accurate fissure, and it connected for a guaranteed one-hit knockout. One of those all-or-nothing moments that makes you feel proud once you completed a goal. Now it's up to Poppy's next Pokemon, Bronzong, to try to turn the tide. I countered immediately by bringing in Audi, the shiny King Gambit, to one-shot Bronzong out of here with a Kowtow Cleave. Poppy's third Pokemon is her own Corviknight, who loves to set up its body press attack by using Iron Defense when it enters into battle. So I brought out my Corviknight Stopper and Magnezone, who immediately lit up Corviknight with a Thunder for a third straight one-hit KO. Out fourth for Poppy is her own Magnezone, so I brought out Kia the Alolan Doug Trio to deliver another one-shot for my steel-clad team with Earthquake, considering Magnezone's Sturdy was broken by the spikes laid down by Shiny Klefki at the start of this bout. Poppy's last line of defense is her ace, Steel Tera Tinkaton. So I brought out my defensive wall and Lincoln the Archuludon with that impressive stamina ability, which gets boosted on sight the second Tinkaton struck first with a super effective Brick Break. Only one defense boost was needed to power up Archuludon's body press, giving me the victory in this Steel-type mirror match. Even though Steel types resist flying, two of Larry's Pokemon has the hard-hitting fighting attack Close Combat, so I chose to proceed with caution when I started with Chrysler the Alolan Sandslash against Larry's first Pokemon, Tropheus, setting up Stealth Rocks at the start of the battle, as Tropheus loves to go for Sunny Day on the first turn to speed up due to its Chlorophyll ability. However, I had the priority Ice Shard in my plan of attack to finish Tropheus off. Alolan Sandslash is quad weak to fighting, which is exactly why Larry brought out Staraptor next with Close Combat. The obvious move to make here is give Goldango a Choice Scarf, sub in the Ghost to soak up the attack, then obliterate Staraptor with a Power Gem. Another predicted sub by Larry is to bring in Altaria third with the Fire move Flamethrower, super effective against all my steel types, so I hard countered with Tinkaton to ruffle up Altaria's feathers with Play Rough. I do have one Pokemon that's a steel type that takes neutral damage from fire in the Sinnoh starter Empoleon, who one-shot Pom-Pom style Oricorio with an Ice Beam in retaliation after taking a super effective Revelation Dance. The last Pokemon left standing for Larry now is the only other Pokemon on his team with Close Combat, and the part-fighting type Flamigo. So I decided to bring in one of my better defensive Pokemon to take the obvious Close Combat in Magnezone, and for the first time during the Elite Four Challenge, I decided to utilize the power of Gen 9 Terrestrialization Privilege. Flamigo took damage when it entered due to the Stealth Rocks, and the Close Combat didn't even take off half of Magnezone's health before getting zapped by a Thunderbolt, securing another outstanding victory for my sensational Steel types. Flamigo also took damage before being eliminated due to Magnezone holding the Rocky Helmet. Remember that Choice Scarf I gave Golden Gold to take out Larry's Staraptor? Well, I passed it along to Alolan Sandslash to go up against Hasso's lead Pokemon Noivern, who normally outspeeds every Pokemon that I try to bring out. I missed my first Icicle Crash, but the second one connected, and Noivern was done for. Paldea's #1 wielder of dragons brought out Dragalge second, so I brought out Ford the Excadrill to eradicate the part-poison type with an Earthquake. Hassel's next hardest-hitting Pokemon is Haxorus, who also gets one-shot by Cadillac, my beloved Lucario's Dragon Pulse. Extreme confidence was oozing out of my sensational steel types now, as Hassel brought out his fourth Pokemon, the Grass and Dragon type Flaffle, making Alolan Sandslash's priority Ice Shard 4 times effective. Hassel's Ace Baxcalibur still has the fighting move Brick Break in its move slot, which is why I swapped in Chevy the Tinkaton to take the hit. And considering Tinkaton is also a fairy type, Brick Break will only do neutral damage, which makes it bad news for Grandpa Hassel, as his Baxcalibur, after terrestrializing into Terra Dragon, gets struck by a super effective Play Rough. For the second and final blow, I terrestrialize Tinkaton into a pure fairy type for more firepower, as the second round of rough play convincingly completes a flawless run for my sensational steel types through the Paldea Elite Four Challenge, passing the elite test with flying colors. Sporting a no-nonsense attitude, my scintillating Steel types and I are on a mission to crown me as the Paldea region champion with these 6 Pokemon. Dodge the Scizor wearing a muscle band. Tesla the Goldengo sporting a pair of wise glasses. Ford the Excadrill with soft sand. Mercedes-Benz the Empoleon wearing a choice scarf. Cadillac my beloved Lucario wearing a black belt, and Audi the shiny King Gambit sporting a pair of black glasses. Gita begins this championship bout by bringing out her Gen 9 Psychic Ostrich lead Espathra, who struck first with Lumina Crash, a move that Scizor resists. And considering Espathra's physically frail like most Psychic types, it got obliterated instantaneously by Scizor's patented X-Scissor. Gita then called upon her best defensive Pokemon in Avalugg, so I countered with Cadillac the Lucario, who delivered a Ryu-like Aura Sphere for the one-hit KO. Probably taunting Gita with my next substitution, I swapped in Audi the shiny King Gambit to deal with Gita's 3rd Pokemon, Go-Goat. King Gambit is a slow Pokemon, but in this case it was faster than Gita's Go-Goat, delivering its signature move Kowtow Cleave not once but twice for another knockout from my Steel-type Pokemon. Gita's 4th Pokemon is Veluza, another Psychic type, who took a Shadow Ball to the face, compliments of Tesla the Goldengo. Gita was finally forced to summon in her own King Gambit, with the Supreme Overlord ability, which powers up its next attack, which never came after Excadrill's Earthquake destroys the new Generation 9 evolution of Bisharp. And now Gita was down to her ace, Rock Terra Glamora. So it was the perfect time for me to finish off this championship match with the Sinnoh Water Starter Empoleon, the only Water and Steel dual-type Pokemon in history. I slapped a Choice Scarf on Empoleon and terrestrialized into Terra Water for the final championship clinching knockout blow. Surf's up! Riding the waves of yet another dominant win, my scintillating Steel types and I silenced any and all doubts, as I am once again Paldea Region Champion. And now it's time to press onward and finish all 3 major storylines in this Pokemon Violet Steel-only run. After taking down the Paldea Elite Four, I immediately head over to the front of Uva Academy, accepting the challenge from Director Clavel, who has a pretty solid team. His first Pokemon, Oranguru, however, was no match for Dodge the Scizor's X-Scissor. Knowing that Houndoom was going to come in with Fire Blast, I brought in Empoleon to take the hit. Fire Blast was nerfed by the fact that it was raining, which also powered up Empoleon's Surf, which washed Houndoom away. I kept Empoleon in to soak up Gyarados' Intimidate, then subbed in Magnezone holding an air balloon, which was a smart decision considering it's quad weak to ground, and Gyarados, not a ground type, does have the move Earthquake. Eventually, Gyarados did pop the air balloon with Aqua Tail before getting zapped by a quad effect of Thunderbolts. The rest of this bout was pretty much a piece of cake, as I subbed in Cadillac, my beloved Lucario, to do some work against the next 2 Pokemon Clavel brought out. Despite being burned by Will-O-Wisp, Lucario finished off Poltergeist with this second Dark Pulse. I kept Lucario in for the next Pokemon, Abomasnow, whose Snow Warning ability got shut down because it was still raining outside. Then Abomasnow got one shot by Lucario's Flash Cannon. I then subbed out Lucario and brought in Chrysler the Alolan Sandslash to square off against Clavel's ace Pokemon, Grass, Terra, and starter Meowscarada. And since Meowscarada's signature move, Flower Trick, is resisted by Steel types, it opted to go for Thunder Punch, before Sandslash scored an easy victory with Icicle Crash, setting up the final battle of the Starfall Street Saga against Penny and her team of 6 evolutions. And I decided to lead off with Scizor again, this time holding the Clear Amulet to ensure his attack stat did not get lowered by Umbreon's obvious baby doll eyes on the first turn. The X-Scissor Bullet Punch combination took care of Umbreon and also baited out the Fire-type evolution Flareon, so I immediately subbed in Mercedes-Benz the Empoleon to take out Flareon with Surf. This is arguably the easiest of the final battles in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, considering all you have to do is have a Pokemon that is super effective against all 6 of Penny's evolutions, like the Electric-type Jolteon, who got dropped by Excadrill's Earthquake. Then, the Water-type Vaporeon came out 4th. Wasting a turn with Baby Doll Eyes on the special attacking Magnezone, Vaporeon almost got taken out by the first Thunderbolt. A second one finally ended Vaporeon's night after striking Magnezone with a strong Hydro Pump. Next out for Penny is the Grass Evolution Leafeon, so the obvious counter for me to bring out is Porsche the Corviknight. This was a battle of attrition that Penny simply could not win. I didn't have the Clear Amulet on Corviknight, but I still managed to defeat Leafeon with 3 Drill Peck attacks, with the last 2 being at a -2 in Corviknight's attack stat because of Leafeon spamming Baby Doll Eyes. With surgeon-like precision, my Steel types were cutting through all of Penny's precious evolutions, and her final one is Fairy Tera Sylveon. Fairy is a type that Steel types absolutely feast on, so I decided to bring out Revavroom to be my closer, terastallizing the car into a Terra Poison type. I missed out on Gunk Shot before taking a Shadow Ball, and after one final Baby Doll Eyes, Sylveon simply could not keep up, getting knocked down by a Poison Jab, then polished off by a critical hit Iron Head for the victory. And just like that, my sensational Steel types emphatically closed down Starfall Street. For all you Lucario lovers out there like myself, you're in luck. You can use Lucario to sweep through Arven's entire team in the final battle of the Path of Legend story. Just make sure you have the moves Close Combat, which was used here to defeat Greedent, Poison Jab for Arven's next Pokemon Scovillain, Aura Sphere for 2 of Arven's Pokemon, including Garganacl, and Ice Punch, which is quad effective on the next Pokemon Arven brings out, Toedscruel. You also gotta make sure that Lucario has a speed boosting nature, or Toedscruel will outspeed Lucario every time. Aura Sphere is also needed to take down Cloyster. And as far as the final Pokemon Arven has, his precious ace Dark Terra Mabosstiff, you don't even need to terastallize. But I did it anyway. Regardless of what level Lucario is at, in order to make sure victory is a lock, you have to have Lucario hold a Life Orb to somehow negate the intimidating attack drop from Mabosstiff, so that Close Combat is a guaranteed one-hit KO. You have to feel sorry for Arven after this solo beatdown, as the Path of Legend storyline is over. The final 2 battles in this Pokemon Violet Steel-only run will no doubt be the most difficult. Regardless of what Monotype run you want to do in Scarlet and Violet, Nemona's final team is fully loaded with powerhouse Pokemon, which includes her lead Pokemon Midday Lycanroc. In order to be faster, I gave Goldengo the Choice Scarf, and then one-shot Lycanroc with Goldengo's signature move Make It Rain. Second for Nemona, she brought out her own Earthworm, so I decided to summon in Lincoln the Archaludon, building up its defense to +2 on the first turn with Iron Defense, then getting a third boost when Earthworm used Body Press, the exact same attack I chose to use on turn 2 to finish off Earthworm. But things are about to get serious real fast when Nemona brought out her trusty Palmont next to do combat against my chosen Palmont stopper, forward the Excadrill. The speedy Palmot strikes with close combat. But my Excadrill is built for tough, taking the pummeling until it was down to its final hit point. I figured something like that was about to be the case, which is exactly why I gave Excadrill a focus sash to hold in the first place. Palmot lowered its own defenses by hitting close combat, and then Palmot could not withstand the tremors from underneath its feet, getting knocked out in one hit by Excadrill's Earthquake. Any attack from Nemona's next Pokemon, Goodra, was going to finish off Excadrill, so I brought out Tinkaton, who completely overperformed, destroying Goodra with a critical hit play rough. In order for my Steel types to be triumphant over Nemona, I brought out Bronzong to deal with the Dunsparce, who was hitting super effectively with Drill Run. I did some chip damage by having Bronzong use Ice Spinner before the Dunsparce set up its attack, defense, and accuracy with Coil. Bronzong stayed true to the game plan by using Rain Dance before I swapped out in favor of Link and the Archaludon. The rain was going to last 8 turns due to the fact that Bronzong was holding the Damp Rock. As long as either of the next 2 drill runs by the Dunsparce didn't land a crit, I was fine, and Archaludon eventually got rid of the Dunsparce with a second body press. And the main reason why I set up the rain is to have for Mercedes-Benz the Empoleon close things out against Nemona's ace Pokemon and Fire Starter, the awesome Fire Croc Skeletors, which has that signature move Torch Song, which always boosts the special attack of Skeletors by 1 stage with that base 80 Fire special attack. But there will be no Skeletors concert tonight. And what has been my toughest battle against Nemona to date, my undefeated streak in this Battle of Champions remains intact, as my sensational Steel types and I have now completed all 3 major side quests in this Pokemon Violet Steel Only run, and only 1 battle remains. My sensational Steel types and I have made it to the end of this Pokemon Violet Steel Only run, as I join Arvin, Nemona, and Penny on the way home to Area 0 for the final fight against Professor AI Turo. A whopping 5 of Turo's 6 futuristic Paradox Pokemon will have an attack that is super effective against all my Steel types, like Iron Thorns with Earthquake, Iron Hands with Drain Punch, Iron Jugulis with Flamethrower, Iron Valiant with Brick Break, and Turo's lead Pokemon, Iron Moth, with a deadly Fiery Dance. Strategy and sustainability was crucial in order for my Steel types to conquer this final fight, which is why I chose to lead with Ford the Excadrill and have the Unova Region Stud hold an Assault Vest to deal with Iron Moth for the opening part of this bout. The Moth will be faster and will strike Excadrill for super effective damage on this Fiery Dance, taking off just over half of Excadrill's HP away, and unfortunately, it also gave the Moth a special attack boost. Another Fiery Dance, even with the Assault Vest on, will knock Excadrill out if Iron Moth is given another chance. But the futuristic Volcarona is also a Poison type, and it gets dropped by Excadrill's quad-effective Earthquake for the first KO of this matchup. Iron Thorns came out second, but it got wiped out in 1 hit by an Aura Sphere from Cadillac, my beloved Lucario. Iron Jugulis with its Flamethrower came out next, so I brought out my Jugulis Stopper in Mercedes-Benz the Empoleon, with the Wise Glasses item to power up its Ice Beam, taking 2 of them to knock out the futuristic Hydreigon from this match. Iron Hands threatens with both Thunder Punch and Drain Punch, so I made the conscious substitution and bringing in Chevy the Tinkaton. After taking the priority first turn Fake Out, which scored a flinch, I had Tinkaton lock the futuristic Hariyama into Encore, which means the Hands is forced to use a move for the next 3 turns that can't even strike Tinkaton. And before the turns were up, the Hands was done for after a critical hit Draining Kiss which followed a devastating play rough. And once the HP of Iron Hands, whatever was left of it, got sapped away by Tinkaton's Draining Kiss, I was on the verge of total victory when Toro subbed in Iron Bundle, and then I brought out Dodge the Scizor to take down the futuristic Delibird. The combination of the super effective Trail Blaze followed by a priority Bullet Punch, powered up by Scizor's Technician ability, was all it took to wrap up the bundle, leaving Toro with only his final Pokemon, the Fighting and Fairy type Iron Valiant. So who better than Tesla the Goldango to be the one to finish off this final fight? A Steel Ghost type that resists both Psycho Cut and Spirit Break, and is also immune to the Valiant's other two moves, being Brick Break and Poison Jab. I had Tesla hold the Clear Amulet to prevent any special attack statistic drop from the incoming Spirit Break by the futuristic Gallade and Gardevoir, making it the perfect time to make it rain. My sensational Steel types and I have done it. I have now completed a 6th consecutive Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Monotype Deathless run for fun, as my Steel types are superior. Using this type in a Monotype run for fun for the first time ever in a Pokemon game truly gave me a newfound respect for the Steel typing, considering it is the best defensive type in all of Pokemon. And a lot of my favorites come out of this type, like Lucario, Scizor, and others. To all of you who took the time out wanting to view this from the beginning to the end, I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you love content like this, be sure to leave a like, and if you are a newcomer to the channel, please consider clicking the subscribe button, because every subscription tells me that I am doing something right, and will further inspire me to want to make even more gaming content, regardless if it's Pokemon or any other game I like to play. Tinkaton is my favorite Steel type, but I also want to show some love to the likes of Empoleon and Excadrill. Let me know what your favorite Steel type Pokemon is if you want, down in the comments section below. See you on the next one, and as always, take care, God bless you all, and keep on shining.